live on Facebook. There we are. We're live on Facebook, and we're recording on the computer again. So this is episode 2 of the Trevor Abusifi North West Edmonton show, live on Facebook, and later to YouTube as soon as I start figuring out how to edit video and upload things to YouTube. So I have the video from the last episode and I will be uploading it, but that's not something I've ever done before, so I'm still learning, and please be patient with me. So if you missed the first episode, what we're doing here is I'm creating some content that I would like to see in the world. I love the northwest corner of this city. I've lived all over it in Castle Downs and Oxford, and now living in Lauderdale. And I think that this portion of our city just doesn't get enough coverage. We have a lot of people. I think it's around 60,000 people live west of 97th Street and north of the Yellowhead. And you don't hear much in the news. Don't hear a lot of stuff focused on the local stuff up here. So this week is a little bit different because my children are here. Henry and Jonah are over there, and they are watching TV. So you might hear the TV in the background, and you might get a special guest host appearance because sometimes some of them like to be on camera. I'm not saying who, but anyway, so content focused on the northwest portion of the city. Let's start. I want to do a little bit of a news wrap up here from last week. Some things happened in the city that I wanted to touch on. We're starting to get more and more news out about the upcoming municipal election. That is going to be happening in about 10 months, I think October of this year. So we have some announcements. John Zaddick from formerly Ward 3 councillor, which would be your Castle Downs neighborhoods and parts of Eau Claire in the north central part of the city. But he's definitely one of the councillors that represents neighborhoods in the northwest, so I pay attention to what he's doing. He officially announced that he would be running for re-election in the new Ward 3, which has changed a little bit. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But we're still waiting on announcements from our other two councillors that represent this part of town, Andrew Knack and Bev Esslinger. There's Henry. Bev Esslinger is currently the councillor of Ward 2, and she has not made an official announcement yet on whether she's running again to seek re-election for council. Hey, hi, Henry.
Hi.
So this is going to be my new co-host, Henry. So Bev Esslinger hasn't announced yet officially if she's going to run or not. So we're waiting to hear that. She may have other plans in office, but I did hear a rumor, and I can't remember where I heard it, but I did hear that she was intending to run again, so that's interesting and good if you're a fan of Bev Esslinger and you live in Ward 2. And then there's Andrew Knack, who the northern part of the current Ward 1 represents some of the communities like Hawkstone and Palisades and stuff that are north of the Yellowhead and west of the Anthony Henday. So in that kind of tip over there, but I still think that's part of Northwest Edmonton. We all kind of share this quadrant. So Andrew Knack has said that he may be running for mayor, but he's still exploring the possibilities of that, seeing who will help with his campaign, who's interested in seeing him become the mayor, and seeing what kind of support he could get for a mayoral run. And I actually did talk with him over Twitter a little bit this week and got some inside information from him there. So, but he basically just told me the same thing he's telling the public right now, which is he doesn't know yet. He may run for council again. He might run for mayor. He may not do either. We'll have to wait and find out. So, speaking of the ward system, I've been looking at the new wards. So it used to be the northwest corner had portions of 3 different wards. Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 3 were all part of this quadrant. And, what I keep talking about, west of 97th and north of the Yellowhead. And so, but we have changes now. So here's a little education for you folks in the Northwest. What's happening to your ward boundaries, because they are changing and the names have changed. We're not using a numerical system anymore. We're using a system of names that were derived all from native words or indigenous words. So the first one, Ward 1, is now becoming the Nakota Iska ward, which is spelt Nakota Isga, but apparently, according to the city website, is Nakota Iska. So that's kind of interesting. Ward 2, which is currently Bev Esslinger's ward, and the ward I live in, is becoming the Anilnuk, I think is how you say it. And it is spelled Anirnik, but it's pronounced Anilnuk. So interesting to watch out for. How the spellings are actually different than what the pronunciations are, which I find interesting. Who's that?
Onion monster.
An onion monster? It looks like a grape monster to me.
Onion.
An onion. A purple onion?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a Saskatoon berry monster? Oh, okay. All right. Well, now the onion monster has made it onto the show. Thank you, Henry. You are completely covered in cat hair. I don't know if you guys can see this, but Henry's shirt. He was carrying the cat around earlier. So, okay. Anyway, back to Ward 3 is becoming the Tasta Ewok. Tasta Ewok ward. Very long name. I'm having a really hard time pronouncing this one and remembering how it's pronounced, because again, the spelling is not completely, but different than, it's not a phonetic spelling to the way it's pronounced. So I'm sure we'll all figure it out. But those are the new wards we're going to be dealing with. Instead of Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 3, you're going to be dealing with Nakota Iska, Nilnuk, and the Tasta Ewok ward. Okay? So John Zaddick, who has announced his candidacy, is going to be running in Tasta Ewok. And there's been a little bit of a change. It used to be that Ward 3 was basically all of Castle Downs and a chunk of the neighborhoods that were east of 97th Street, and that's sort of in the far north end of the city. But they've actually taken Dunluce, Kenosha, and Rapperswil out of that ward and put it into the grouping that is currently Ward 2, which is now becoming the Anilnuk ward. So if you live in Dunluce, Rapperswil, or Kenosha, you're going to get a new councillor, even if John Zaddick is reelected. So that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure I understand what the point of that is. I think that, demographically, Castle Downs is fairly homogeneous, so I don't know why we would need to separate those neighborhoods out into a different ward. There's got to be some kind of a rationale to it, but I have no idea why. I don't know why they did that. So Nakota Iska, it has no current people running for the councillor. So that would be Andrew Knack if he decides to run for councillor, but there are currently no registered there's currently no registered candidates in that ward. So I suspect there will be a few people that want to run, and they're kind of waiting to hear what Andrew Knack is going to do. My impression is that Andrew Knack is fairly well liked in the West End, and he is going to be a hard incumbent to beat if he does decide to run. So some folks who want to challenge him may be waiting to see if he's going to run for mayor instead before they register to run for councillor in that neighborhood. So that's interesting. In the, how do we pronounce it again? Anilnuk ward, we currently have one person currently registered to run for councillor. That's Aaron Rutherford. So Aaron Rutherford will be running against Bev Esslinger if Bev Esslinger is actually going to run, which we've heard the rumor that she is. So that's interesting. And the Tastaiyenewak ward has 3 people currently registered to run for councillor. So that is Ahmed Nomadic Ali is running. I don't know what a nomadic is, but it's actually in the name he registered with the city. So Ahmed Ali, the nomadic, but that's not nomadic like he's a traveling person. It's KNOW, Matic. So maybe he's a know-it-all like me. You also have Cody Bondarchuk, who is registered and running for councillor in that ward, and the aforementioned John Zaddick. So if you're running for mayor or councillor, I would love to hear from you. Last time in the federal election, I tried to reach out to all of the candidates in all of the ridings in North West Edmonton and do getting to know you blog posts with them. So I was able to get a hold of quite a few. Some of them were not interested, and some of them were non-existent. Just paper ballot names for a party to check off that weren't actually doing any campaigning, so they didn't respond to me. But I'd like to do the same thing again. Just 4 questions about how you intend to operate in the government and sort of what your thoughts are. You guys can go to my blog and check out the ones that I did for the federal election if you want. That's nwedmonton.home.blog for the Northwest Edmonton blog. Trevor loves Northwest Edmonton blog if you want to see those. So hopefully I'm going to keep track of who's running for councillor and who's running for mayor and reach out to them and their campaigns and see if we can do that again. Okay. Let's see what's next on our list. Oh, we've got mayor candidates. So we've been talking a little bit about Andrew Knack and his potential run for mayor. We currently have 3 people running for mayor or have announced that they're running for mayor. That is Kim Kershell, former councillor, Mike Nickel, former councillor, and Cheryl Watson, who is the founder of Innovate Edmonton. So that's going to be an interesting race to follow as well. I have some criticism of Mr. Nickel that I would like to get to, but I think we're going to have to pause because somebody has just arrived. So I am going to pause the video live on Facebook, and I'm going to go do something real quick, and I'll be back in 15 minutes or so, okay? See you, everybody who's watching, and I will be sure to splice these together so that if you're watching this later, you won't have this interruption.
Pause.
Here, okay, good.
Yay.
What do you think, Henry? All right, we are back with my co-host, Henry. And so what were we talking about before we took the break there? Oh, yes, we were talking about the mayoral candidates and how we're going to put the get to know you segments on the blog. So if you can look forward to that. What else is happening in the news this week? So we had election coverage. The Oilers played the Flames yesterday in the very first Battle of Alberta in the 2021 hockey season, and they lost. They lost 4-6, and they slipped below 500 with that win to now have a record of 6-7. The big news of this last week has been how terribly, terribly cold it has been, and my sidewalk has not been shoveled because it's so cold I don't want to go outside and shovel the sidewalk. So if you're walking in front of my house, I apologize. I'm a wimp, and I just haven't gotten around to it because I'm afraid of being outside and being cold. There's nothing else. That's the only reason. That also means the city has instituted its cold weather protocols. So there's 24-hour bus service running from the major terminals to homeless shelters so that people can get where they need to go if they are out in the cold on the street, which is kind of cool. I think it's nice that our city is thinking of the people who have nowhere to go when it is this cold. So that's kind of nice to know the city is doing that. What else is in my notes here? Oh, you know what I wanted to talk about, since we're talking about the counselors and Mike Nickel and Andrew Knack. There was a release from the city of Edmonton this week, which I found very interesting. The city had commissioned a way to increase transit usage, which was, this city's been working hard to try to get people more focused on using transit and making the system better, and they had asked for suggestions on how to improve that. And I think the last time they asked for one of these reports, the people at city management came back and said, well, you could make transit free and that would increase ridership, which is for sure, but the point of increasing the ridership isn't just to do nice things for the environment and the community, it's also to increase revenue so that the transit system doesn't lose quite so much money. So making it free doesn't really accomplish that goal. So one of the things in this report that came out this week was that you could effectively double the cost of driving, which would force people to use transit, or make transit more appealing. And they said you could put up toll roads and you could have car levies and taxes and all these other things. And it wasn't a real plan. It was just, like, this is what we could do if you were really, really serious about increasing traffic. This is one of the things, or traffic on the transit. This is one of the things you could do. So Mike Nickel came out and said, this is the war on cars, and Edmonton is trying to kill cars, and basically created a big stink about the city trying to get people to use transit by doubling the cost of driving. Well, then, which was all completely manufactured by Mike Nickel. That was never going to happen. It was never a policy of the city. It was just a small portion of a larger report, right? Or a larger set of suggestions, right? So Andrew Knack, who we've now talked about a little bit on the show today, came out and basically said, no, Mike Nickel is not correct. There is no war on cars. We spent a ton of money on infrastructure for cars, including the Anthony Henday and road expansions and parking and all kinds of things that we do, which I think I really liked that perspective from Andrew Knack. Transportation isn't just bike lanes, and it's not just transit, and it's not just cars. It's all of these things and how they all work together. So it's important that our transportation strategy is inclusive of all the ways that people get around, right? Like, we need to accommodate for bikes, and we need to accommodate for pedestrians, we need to accommodate for cars, and we need to accommodate for people that are using transit. These are all important things that people use, right? Like, we need to make sure they're all working well, or else people just aren't going to get around. So that's a much more balanced way of looking at this. And I think if you're one of the people that thinks Edmonton has a war on cars, you need to really stop focusing on the things that they're doing around not cars, and they need to focus. You need to look at all of the infrastructure that's in place to support car traffic, right? Like, we need cars in this city. I couldn't do my job without a car. I can't do it on the bus, so I'm very concerned about what the traffic is like. But I also know that there's a lot of good reasons to use the bus, and my older son takes the bus to school. He takes city transit to school, so it's important that these things work right and that we have a balanced approach. So thank you, Mr. Knack, if you're watching this. Thank you for your response, and not just allowing the shock value of what Mr. Nickel was saying to be the news story of the day. So thank you. Okay, we've got that. All right, so we've got some news from the city, around the city. I wanted to talk about 630 Ched. Okay, one of the things that's happening in our society is the degradation of our public conversations. Okay, I used to listen to 630 Ched a lot. I love talk radio. 630 Ched has been in my life since I was a teenager. I think maybe when I was about 10, they switched from the rock platform to the talk platform. And I remember them doing that. And I remember being upset because I liked the Love Connections show that was on Ched when I was a kid, where people would call in and try to find dates or to sell things. They had a show there. You could call in and say what you had for sale, and then people would call the radio station and connect with you to buy stuff, which I think was really entertaining for me as a kid for some reason. But anyways, so on Monday in the morning, we had Shay Gannam read a expletive-laden text message, an angry expletive-laden text message. And I found this very disturbing because in the past, the hosts would just have ignored those, right? You don't bring this unhinged person onto the air and highlight their craziness. And then he goes on a rant about how inappropriate it is to say these things. And, well, if it was inappropriate, why did you read it in the first place? Like, whoever is telling the people to read these things at Ched needs to get a grip and realize that it is completely destroying their brand as a reputable radio station. Because then the same day in the afternoon, I tuned in to listen to Jalen Nye's show, and she did the same thing. And Jalen has been very good. Like, she's a news broadcaster, and generally speaking, doesn't go into that kind of, keeps it professional, tells the news, does a little bit of talk. We have some conversations about things. Maybe you agree with her, maybe you don't. But they don't put, like, angry lunatics on the radio. But Ched has started doing that for some reason. And I was listening to the same day, this is all Monday. Danielle Smith has her show in the morning too, right? So the news report on Monday at the end of the morning show was telling everybody about how one of the new, more transmissible COVID variants had come into Canada, or come into Edmonton. I believe it was Edmonton or Calgary. I think it was Edmonton. Somebody had traveled here, and they had given the virus to their kid, and their kid went to school, and so the variant ended up in the school, this more transmissible variant, which is disturbing because as somebody with kids, I don't want to see the schools shut down again. And then projections on the spread of the new variant are very concerning. They look, now granted, it was very concerning before when all of the graphs looked like hockey sticks, and now this one looked like a hockey stick too. So I take it with a little bit of a grain of salt as to what to expect. But you can't be, I don't think we can be messing around with this stuff. So then Danielle Smith comes on and immediately starts talking about how she doesn't understand that the airlines are being punished. Like, WestJet isn't getting a fair shake, and we're unfairly punishing the travel industry and people who want to like leave Canada, and she can't understand why we're doing that. Like, Danielle, have you lost your ability to reason about this? Like, of course, travel is how it got here in the first place. It's the major spread vector between jurisdictions. Okay? We won't have a South African variant or a Brazilian variant or a UK variant here if people can't come here who are infected with that. Okay? So because our government is doing such a poor job of administering this and preparing the healthcare system for the inevitable, I would like to not have those variants here if we can prevent it. And I'm sorry if that means you can't go to the UK or South Africa or Brazil for a while. I don't know what to tell you. If you're worried about the health of WestJet over the health of our school system, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. That's just, you're entitled to that opinion, but I think it's a silly opinion to have, honestly. And then Danielle Smith's entire show is the same as the other two shows. It's just crazy nut jobs calling in, and they're putting these people on the air like COVID deniers and people who think that the Great Reset is an existential threat to democracy, which it's not. It's not even a thing. I don't know why we are talking about this. Like, our premier lends credence to these issues, and he talks about conspiracy theories in like the Great Reset, but then he goes on an hour-long rant on Facebook about how people need to stop believing in conspiracy theories. Well, Mr. Premier, you're the one that is helping to spread these conspiracy theories. Like, can we not get some grown-ups in the room? Can we not have some people who are professional and interested in purveying the news and talking about things that are important to people in a civilized adult way? Can we get those people back on the radio? Anyway, that's my rant about 6:30 Ched. I'd like to know whoever their program director is, and I would send them a bad email like that this person needs to be fired because they're just failing, and that once great radio station is going down the tubes quickly. Hence why we're doing podcasts now, right? Like, we're doing this stuff because our radio stations have gotten so bad. And anyway, that's why I'm here, because I'm doing this because I don't want to have to listen to that anymore. So, and we're going to talk about things in my local neighborhood instead of just esoteric fluff. Okay, so there's my editorial on Ched. I wanted to touch base again on the coffee thing that I had talked about last week. So I've been talking about doing this coffee review, right? I want to find the best cup of coffee in the Northwest, okay? And I couldn't remember the name of the place last week, but it's the Paramo Cafe. Everybody keeps telling me to go try, which is right beside the Tim Hortons on 137th, or is it the northwest corner of 137 and 97th Street, across from the Popeyes, if you know where that is. So I'm looking forward to trying that place, but I want to try some other places too, and I need your guys' help. I need you to write a comment when you watch this. Where's your favorite place to get coffee in the Northwest? So I Googled it. There's a few coffee shops I'd like to try, and but I mean, we got a lot of McDonald's, and we got a lot of Tim Hortons, and we got a few Starbucks. I don't think you guys need me out reviewing Starbucks and McDonald's coffee particularly. Would like to focus on the things that you can get that are a little bit more local, more independent, because you can get a McDonald's coffee anywhere, right? We've all had it. We like coffee. We've tried it. We've tried Tim Hortons. We've tried Starbucks, right? We all know what those things taste like. So I want to try the offbeat stuff. So we're probably going to go to Paramo, and I think so. Starting tomorrow, which is February the 8th. Today's February 7th. Tomorrow, the bars and restaurants can reopen. So I'm hoping that means the what's the one that I like? 132 and 132. That's completely slipped my mind. In Wellington. Baby, what's the name of that restaurant in Wellington? Hathaway's, thank you. Hathaway's Diner. I'm hoping that means they reopen and I can go get a cup of coffee from them, and I'll compare that against the Paramo coffee. But I want you guys to tell me, comment on the video here and tell me where you get your coffee from and where I should try, because I really want to give a fair shake to as many local places as I can and give them a review so you guys have some information going forward on coffee in this part of town. Do I have anything else on? Nope, that's about all I wanted to talk to you guys today about. So good luck, stay safe, stay warm out there. It is going to be cold all next week. So if you want to come over and shovel my sidewalk, please do, because I don't want to go outside and do it. And maybe you're one of those people who loves the cold and you love shoveling snow, and if you're that kind of person, then you can come over and shovel my snow. I'd be happy to let you do that. But anyways, we're going to sign off. We'll see you next Sunday for episode number 3, and looking forward to all of you guys telling me where you're going to get your coffee from, or where you like to get your coffee from. All right, cheers everybody. Bye bye Facebook. We're going to turn off Facebook, and bye. And we're going to turn off the rest of the recording.